Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about how to effectively read and understand a research article. For our discussion today, I have already pulled up one of the research articles that I read recently and want to talk to you about how to dissect and break down this rather hefty article that we have here. So the first thing that we're going to do is to start out by reading the abstract of the article. So this article is about implementing choice boards with cooperative learning to serve mixed-leveled elementary school EFL learners. So we're going to start by reading the abstract, and the abstract is right here on our screen. This is a summary of the research and the research results. Reading the abstract is going to help give you a picture of what the article is about and if this is really an article that you need and that's going to serve the purposes that you are looking for. Another thing that you can read to help you understand the article would be the introduction. Sometimes introductions can be a little bit lengthier and often do not include the full picture of what the person did. It's more of the background information instead of the introduction. So I would always start with the abstract first. Moving on from the abstract, you want to identify what the big question is. Typically, these are going to be included inside of your abstract, but maybe inside of your introduction as well, so you can always go look there for it. In the case of this article, their big question is whether or not the implementation of choice boards with cooperative learning is a good strategy for achieving differentiated instruction among 4th through 6th graders. So moving on from our abstract and from our identifying the big question, we're then going to think about how to summarize the background in 5 sentences or less. This is something that you may want to do instead of your head. You may want to write down on a piece of paper. I typically do so instead of my head. I'm just trying to think about what is the big question? What are the possible limitations of the work that we're looking at? What needs to be done with this work? What am I going to be looking at here as I read through the article? These are all types of questions that you may want to think about when you start to summarize the background. The next thing that you want to do is to go to the methods section and to read how the research was conducted. This typically follows your introduction and literature review if they have one. And it's typically always labeled with the word method. I always start interpreting my method as first looking at the participants instead of the study. I think it's very important to find out how many people participated at the grade levels in the participation to find out if this research was valid or not, if there was a small sample size or if this was only targeting one grade level. It may not be a good research article for you. After I look at the participants, I'm going to look at the activities that were done and how the research was completed. So you can scroll down and quickly scan the activities section. And in this case, they even included a chart about how it was implemented. So those are all things you want to skim over and read. The next section I'm going to look at is how they collected data. Typically, their collection of data is listed out in the first 3 to 5 sentences. You can see here it says that the data collection lasted for 15 weeks. It was also designed using a questionnaire to discover the students' attitudes, and that questionnaire was done using a 5-point Likert scale. This is all information that is listed in that first paragraph of data collection. It is important for you to understand how the research was completed so that when it comes to the conclusion, you understand what the results that they are reporting say and where they came from. The thing that I'm going to do is to go all the way down to near the bottom of the report and find the results section. In this case, it was very up close to the top, as the majority of this paper is filled with questionnaires and the methodology that was used. So in this case, it was right underneath the data collection section. And I'm going to read through the entire results question. This is going to break down the information from the article into data points, oftentimes percentages, and give you a good picture on whether or not the big question was answered, if the thesis or the hypothesis was correct, and the initial introduction. And it also goes and gives you a big picture on if this research article is going to support what you are looking for it to support. In the results section, you are going to want to scroll down and begin reading the conclusion / the interpretation of the results. So you may have to scroll down a good bit to find that, depending on how big that the data section was. So we're going to scroll all the way down and come to our conclusion. So the conclusion is going to summarize all the results from the article and also explain what those results mean to them and their interpretation of it. It's going to tell you on whether or not their big question was answered and whether or not they were correct or they need to conduct more research. And it is a very important aspect of the article for you to understand exactly what happened from point A to point C and whether or not the research was successful or not. Something that I do when I am reading and trying to understand a research article after reading the conclusion is I go all the way back up to the top and I reread the abstract. This is just to help get my mind organized and remember what the purpose of the paper was and kind of summarizes it for me once again. And after reading the abstract, I try to think about if I have any remaining questions about what the article was about how the research was done, any questions about specific methodology that they used, and from there I go through and read specific sections of the paper that I feel might answer those questions for me. If I don't have any further questions, I close out the paper and move on to my next research article. I hope that this has been helpful for you today. As always, if you have any questions, you may contact me at bhurd3@my.westgeorgia.edu. Thank you.